Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Steve Duvall, and this is Sedona.biz News. And today we have with us a gentleman who's been in the limelight of the community for a few years, a many-year resident, former vice mayor, and he's going to share some of his perspectives, some of his observations on what's happening today and what's happening and what has happened in the past, and maybe give us a good glimpse into what the future may look like. This is Cliff Hamilton. Hi, Cliff.
Hi. Thanks, Steve. It's always good to have a chance to visit with you.
Welcome, and I hope it turns out.
Hey, you bet.
So, Cliff, we've kind of wandered around on different topics because you have so much information, such a wealth of background. I consider you to be one of our statesmen.
Well, thank you. That's flattering. I appreciate that.
Unfortunately, it doesn't come with a paycheck. But we've been talking about a number of different topics, and one that seems to be pretty much in everybody's mind today is about the commissions and what's been happening with the commissions in the community. The city council voted to, Barbara Dutrell called it restructure them. People who were around town and on the commissions probably said they fired everybody. So I suspect it's somewhere in between, but you have a unique perspective in having been involved with those commissions. So tell us a little bit about what's going on here.
Well, you know, Steve, this is from my perspective strictly, but and one of the things I would say is that not being on the council, but having all of that time and background and knowing how things worked and having experience with meeting with commissions and all that, but not being engaged in the current aspect of things and all the lobbying and all the politics that go on, I think when you stand back from it, as I've had an opportunity to do, you do get a different perspective. I think a whole lot more objective perspective at times in regard to that. So, you know, the council made a decision to go a different way with commissions. Commission's been around for a long time, and they've increased in number over the years, but some of them have been around for quite a long time, and the council made a decision to go a different direction. I think I would probably say, honestly, if I were sitting on the council, I would have voted the way the majority did. I think there are some new opportunities. I'm working on 2 city projects right now that have a strong focus and are producing what I would hope they would produce. And I think they serve as a model. So at least in my mind, there are some models out there that are already working and moving some of that direction, perhaps reinstituting some of the old commissions with a little different kind of approach, but going with some new models, I think, is a very healthy thing to do.
One of the approaches that the city council made was rather than, well, let me back up a little bit. I think they asked the staff for recommendations on what they would suggest we do to make the commissions more functional and more responsive and not so bogged down in procedural things. And they came back 3 times, and on the 3rd vote, they said, you really got to not do this anymore. We want to start from scratch with the commissions again. Would it have been prudent, perhaps, to have gone in stages and look at each commission individually, or was it better just to wipe the slate clean?
In my perspective, and again, I'm speaking strictly for myself and my viewpoints, I think wiping the slate clean and starting over is by far the best way to go, to try to take them one at a time and value judge and recognize that each one of those commissions changes year after year as new people come and go. What you see in one snapshot a year later might be quite different. So starting over from a fresh base, I think, is the only way you could do that with all of those. And so I would see that as, again, as the right kind of move. I have full faith in this council and in the city staff that they will reinstitute back a number of different kinds of committees, probably several of the same kinds of commissions. I think budget advisory will be coming back. I'd probably bet on that one. I think some version of probably sustainability will come back. I think the other ones will probably go into some sort of task by task kind of activity. But I think starting over again without trying to do one at a time would be just an onerous task. And again, you're taking a snapshot in time if you're doing that with each one of those, because they do change.
Do you suppose that the commissions as they were formed with the people who were populating the commissions, they could have stuck with the same people? Could we have changed the way it works with the same people, or did we have to just start with new people and everything from the beginning?
Well, again, there was a lot of diversity among those people, and I would draw again on my experience on council. And each council member serves as a liaison to a commission, at least one commission, and I did that in the 4 years I was on the council. And I'd tell you honestly, Steve, that the theory of those commissions and the reality of those commissions is really very different. The theory being these are the voice of the people, these are experts in their field that provide guidance and consulting things to the council. That's what the theory is about. But in reality, many of the people that I saw come and go from those commissions were hardworking, well-meaning people, but in most cases, or in very large number of cases, were not experts in their field. Many of them gained a lot of expertise as a result of serving on the commission, but they didn't come to those commissions as experts in their field. They might have been interested in it. They might have been willing to serve on something that was what was available. They took the job, but they weren't necessarily experts in their field at all. And the second thing, that these were the voice of the people. I think I can count on just my fingers alone the number of people in the 4 years I was on the council that I saw come and testify or hardly even attend the specific commission that I was the liaison to. So the notion that people are coming in and testifying to these commissions and presenting their ideas and serving as, again, the voice of the people, that's also just not quite reality.
Didn't really work. So how do we engage the community in our local government?
Well, I think we do it project by project. And there's a lot of things. We've got a lot of expertise in this city. We've got a lot of people who want to be involved, and we need to focus on specific activities. As I think I've mentioned to you before, I'm working myself on 2 different committees with the city that both have a very specific focus, a very specific outcome that we're trying to achieve, and I'm very pleased with the time I spend there and the kinds of things we're getting done. And I think they serve as a model for how we go about doing this project by project and specific activity by specific activity. I think it will get a lot more done for the city with a lot less cost and a lot less staff involvement. So again, those are reasons why I would have probably, in reality, voted the way that the majority did in regard to commissions.
I'm a more of a touchy-feely kind of guy. And I probably never would have made it on council. They probably would have murdered me when I ran in 2006. Thank you for not electing me. And but at the same time, people gave of themselves what they had. They engaged themselves in the community and did what they could do, the best that they could do.
That's right.
Now they've been kind of disempowered. I mean, that kind of hurts. To me, that hurts. If I'd have been on the Arts and Culture Commission, for example, for 2.5 years, and I'd worked tirelessly like the ones that were there did, and then all of a sudden staff comes in and says, no more. I find that hard to swallow. Tell me where I'm off track on this.
Well, I think your description's a little harsh, Steve. I don't think it was quite that
Okay.
that harsh even in the beginning. And remember, there's another phase now that the city will be moving into, and that is the process, August 1st, this coming Thursday, when the commissions officially expire. But the next phase is to be looking at how to reinstitute various activities that some of those commissions might have taken up at one time or another, and to populate those activities with people, again, who are interested in doing them, and to move forward with a very specific focus to get them done. So this process is not done. And again, I think you were a little harsh in your description of how it was done. There was quite a lot of discussion.
That is actually, pardon me, that's what a lot of people said.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there were some people who said that, but again, one of the other myths may be exactly how big this group of discontented folks really is. I don't know that for sure. I'm not a council member now. I don't get all those emails, but I do hear from and keep in contact with a number of the council members in one way or another, and I don't really think it was as big a deal as some folks made it out to be. Certainly some folks were hurt, and certainly some folks were unhappy with the process, and we've certainly seen that expressed, but I don't think it was quite as drastic as some may have described. And again, we're not done with that process, or they're not done with that process clearly at all.
There were some people who were more emotionally involved than others.
Sure.
So those are the people who took it hard.
Yes, and that's always going to be the case, unfortunately. But I hope those folks will find new opportunities with the newly identified tasks and projects that I'm sure will be forthcoming to get involved in things that are specifically interesting to them. Again, just as I've done since I left the council and got involved in a couple of things. So.
There was a listening at the library a week or so ago. Pardon me. And our city manager, Tim Ernster, outlined a number of new ways of implementing the commission structure and how it was going to change. It sounded kind of good, actually. You give credit, all the credit we can to Mr. Ernster, who's been, at the forefront of a lot of these things and the brunt of a lot of people's feelings. But he did outline a number of steps that sounded pretty good. It sounded like maybe that might be a little bit better organized and a little bit more functional and a little bit more streamlined, get a few things done. So maybe there are some good things still on the horizon. Do you suppose that many of the people who were on commissions and are now, as of day after tomorrow, sunsetted, do you get a sense of how many of those people are going to come back?
No, I have no idea, Steve. I'm not close to those groups any longer, not being on the council. I think people will self-select in terms of the things they really want to be involved in. If you were on a commission, you had this sort of notion, perhaps, a very broad set of possibilities, hoping somewhere in that smorgasbord of possibilities you might find something that was really a great personal interest. Now they have the chance to select a specific personal interest, to self-select exactly what they want to do, not be faced with this whole smorgasbord of things that might not be exactly what your cup of tea is.
So there'll be kind of one project at a time, focus on that, come in, do the project, be done.
I think
Not
that's the
serve
intent.
on a commission that just continues to roll on.
Well, again, I think a couple of them, like budget advisory,
Yeah.
and perhaps sustainability, will have, that's my suspicion, but it's just, that's my rumor. I would tell you is all. Those may have some ongoing continuities. It's a little broader, but I think other things will be just simply specific projects that need to be done, that can be done by a group of interested volunteers, and people will self-select those that they want to serve on.
If my memory serves me correctly, when you were on council, that's when things, I'm not saying that you caused it to happen, I want to word this properly, but as I remember, that's where, when you were on the council, some of the first shakings began to occur, where some questions were beginning to be asked about how things were functioning. And that's kind of where there was some people who resigned from the Arts and Culture Commission, and that was kind of the first earth-shaking of movement of the commissioners and the beginnings of the changes that maybe have gotten us to where we are today.
Tradition is a very strong driver. And we had these commissions set up. They functioned every month, or they did something usually every month. And they were sort of traditional, and they kind of went along, I think, as often things do, well after the time that people are sensing that it's just not working. They're not getting done what they're hoping to get done. And so, yeah, I think there was some undercurrents there, some concerns that were starting to rise, and they finally come clear to the top now.
Yeah. Well, today's kind of a signpost along the way. Today was the 60th day after the vote was taken, and if there was going to be any reconsideration by the council, any day after today would be the day for one council person to bring it back up again.
That's correct.
Do you think do you think anybody will kind of rethink this and bring it back up on the table?
Again, I don't know. I'm not in one-to-one contact with those folks regularly enough to know that somebody's got a burning desire. But it does take two council members to put something on the ballot, or on the council agenda. And so it would take two council members to say, let's put this back on the council agenda and reconsider it. Any of those who voted in the affirmative within the first 7 days could have asked for reconsideration. But after that window passes, then it has to go for another 6 weeks before it can go back on an agenda. But it will take two council members to put it on, and I don't know who might do that. I think, again, I'm just speculating, but I think they'll probably be waiting to see what kinds of things will start to emerge with a new structure, and what kinds of things really can be done to make this a productive and involved situation.
In my experience in being here in Sedona, things that have worked on the outside world, the real world, if you will, quite a few times are not the same as the way things work in town, and vice versa. So it'll be an interesting process to see how this evolves. Nothing is cast in stone, right? It can
No.
all be changed at any point.
No, and of course with committees that aren't their staff appointed and that sort of thing, and not council appointed, where you're not obligated with open meeting laws and all the recording and advance notices and all that sort of things. Things can be happen much more quickly. They can happen much more fluidly. The members of those committees or groups can talk to each other outside of a meeting without, again, open meeting law issues. And so the possibilities of a much more productive structure emerging out of this, I think, are enormous. And again, my message would certainly be, give it time, give it a chance to see what really can emerge.
Hopefully it'll emerge where it needs to go.
You know, I just have faith in it. I've seen several projects that I'm involved in, and I think that other ones can certainly follow. So I have great faith in it.
So just quickly, what are you involved in now?
Well, there's two of them. One involves the wetlands. There's an advisory body that involves the wetlands and what kinds of things are going to be developed there and how that's going to go forth. Right now we're working on we've been giving some information about the grand opening, which will probably be in September. You know, they're open right now, but all of the accoutrements out there will be done. The restrooms and the parking and all that will be all done and ready to go by September, and so there'll be a grand opening. It's what the group's been working on right now, and other things leading up to that. The other one is a trails project, maintaining access to forest trails around the city where there are people accessing the forest lands across private land where the city doesn't have an easement or any of that sort of thing, and so it's a trails-related project. And again, both of them have a specific focus, an intended outcome. We're not bound by a lot of rules and open meeting laws and things, and I think we're all getting a lot of stuff done. And so I just look at those as models.
I can see the pros and cons of the open meeting stuff, but in terms of the commissions, and there needs to be an opportunity for people to have free-flowing organic dialogue without having to call a meeting and go through all the things that they have to go through.
Yeah, the open meetings law is a very important
It
item,
is.
obviously, and it also creates certain, I'll call them handicaps, but it's like the seeds that go with the tomato. So we need to. Again, it's a business about balance, trying to find balance in there to getting things done, and involving the public, and still not being encumbered by things that get in the way of both of those things.
I've always believed that Sedona is a very enlightened community, and perhaps this is a step in the right direction. I sure hope so.
Well, I'm hopeful.
Yeah. As a news reporter, I try not to interject my opinions too much. Sometimes I do. I'm passionate and I get involved, where perhaps I should take a little further back approach. So we'll have to see where this all goes.
Sure.
Yeah. Anything else? What does the future hold for you, Cliff? You have any ideas at all besides being an avid model airplane flyer and a pilot and all that?
I have lots of hobbies and lots of other things to get involved in around the city. And so in terms of the future, I do keep contact with a number of the council members. I stay in contact with some of the city staff. Again, working on these projects and things lets me do that. Keep an eye on the council agenda, and I consider this my political sabbatical. And maybe one day I'll choose to go back to work, and perhaps not. It's hard to know. We'll see what the next election brings.
Yeah, it's just coming up around the corner.
Well, it's further around the corner maybe than some folks realize, because it's going to be a very different process this time.
See, now while we're talking about this briefly, the election process is shifting from an election in March.
Yeah, from a March-May timeframe to an August-November timeframe. So
that'll
current council members are served actually 6 months longer than their term might have been, because they moved those dates. And so this is going to make a summer election rather than a winter election. Many people go away for the summer, or off on vacation, right in the heart of the time when campaigning will be going on for city offices. will be the heart of the summer, July and into August. And that's, with people gone on vacations and all that, it's going to be a very different kind of situation than, February, January, March. Everybody's kind of, hanging around, except those who go further south or something in the winter. But it's going to be a different situation. And other than a time frame, it will be a different feel, I know. And
So if they're moving it, why didn't they move it to coincide with the national elections in November?
well, again, the August part is the primary.
Okay.
The November part is the general election, and if in terms of city offices,
Okay.
if there does have to be a runoff from the primary, it would occur in November, and it would coincide with the November elections, November Tuesday elections.
Okay, so the primary is in August
Yes.
next year,
Yeah,
2014.
as I understand it right now, it would be somewhere towards the end of August.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right. I mean, everybody's gone on vacation in July and August. It
Yeah.
will change the
So
dynamic.
if you can imagine seeing campaigns out on the street in July and that sort of thing going on, forums being held in
Yeah.
in the heat of the summer, but that's what it's going to be. It will be a different circumstance.
It's like Christmas in the summertime.
Who knows?
Out of season, out of season. Anything else, Cliff, that you'd like to share with us?
I don't know. As I said, I stay in touch. I stay engaged in the community. I keep an eye on the next election. I think it is time for a change in some of those areas, and who knows?
Got your crystal ball? We all need a crystal ball.
Well, that'd be called speculation, I
Indeed
think.
it
and
would.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this afternoon show. Appreciate your watching. I'm Steve Duvall, and this is Sedona.biz News.